Hey everyone. I'm Six-Path Weeb, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Here, we dive deep into anime stories, alternate timelines, and the what-ifs that keep fans thinking long after the episodes end. Today's topic is one that many fans have wondered about. What if NaruHina began much earlier? Imagine a different timeline, where feelings were realized sooner, bonds grew stronger earlier, and the story unfolded in ways we never got to see. How would it change the journey? The battles? The characters themselves? Before we begin. Disclaimer, the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's explore this alternate story together. Let's begin. Uzumaki Naruko sat unusually still at her seat in the Konohagakure Shinobi Academy, quietly listening to her instructor's lesson. Umino Iruka forced himself to keep his eyes on the girl, making sure that she was not planning some type of colorful prank involving paint or hidden whistles. On a normal day, the young student would not be paying attention to any of the lectures in the academy. To her, sitting still was difficult, and she felt her time was better spent practicing her jumps or dreaming of the future. Today, however, was not a normal day. The subject of Iruka's lecture was one of the few things that Naruko was genuinely interested in, the former Hokage and the kind, protective responsibilities related to the position. Now, who here can tell me the names of all the Hokage? Iruka asked. As the instructor began to eye different students, looking among the group of children who raised their hands to answer the question, a confident giggle escaped Naruko's lips. Hey, that's an easy question, Iruka-sensei, Naruko said, crossing her arms and tossing her blonde pigtails. The Shodai Hokage was Senju Hashirama, and his brother, Senju Tobirama, was the Nidaime. The third, is the Sandaime, and the Yondaime was Namikaze Minato. Naruko, you're supposed to wait until I call on you to answer a question. Don't just talk like that unless you have permission, Iruka said, trying to look stern. A second passed before the teacher dropped the serious look on his face and smiled at his student, nodding his head. However, you are correct. Although you should give Sandaime-sama the proper respect he deserves and call him by his full name, Sarutobi Hiruzen, you are right. Those are the names of the Hokage. Naruko rubbed the back of her head, beaming at her teacher's praise. Her bright blue eyes sparkled with joy. Wow, Naruko actually knew an answer to something, Ino said with a lighthearted chuckle. It's a miracle. Our village must be under a magic spell or something, Kiba exclaimed loudly. The class laughed in response to the joke, which caused Naruko to puff out her cheeks, the grin on her face fading for just a moment. Hey, I know I'm usually more interested in lunch than history, but if there's one subject I know, it's the Hokage, she shouted. I have to know about my heroes, after all. Someday, I'm going to be one too. Alright, no more teasing, everyone. We have more to get into with the lesson, Iruka shouted, his voice ringing through the room. The academy students quieted down, looking sheepishly at their instructor. The teacher's eyes wandered the classroom, making sure that all the children had settled down, before he continued. Anyway, as you all heard, those are the names of our former leaders. Some of their clan names might be names you recognize from our history classes, Iruka stated, bringing his hand to his chin. Senju Hashirama and his family helped found Konoha. And the Sarutobi family was also very important in helping bring everyone together in the early days. So basically, the Hokage are all from famous historical families, right? One of the students, a brown-haired boy named Ken, said with a curious look. Does that mean you have to be from a special family to be a great leader? That's not necessarily true, Ken, Iruka said, appreciating the thoughtful question. Being from a family of ninja helps because they can teach you early on, but the Yondaime proved that anyone can do it. Naruko spoke up, her voice full of admiration. Namikaze Minato's parents were just regular people, yet he worked hard and became the Hokage because he cared about the village. Naruko. What did I say about speaking out of turn? Iruka barked, though he couldn't hide the small pride in his voice that she was paying such close attention. Naruko sank back into her chair, sheepishly adjusting her orange jacket as she giggled quietly. I guess I got a little excited, Iruka-sensei. Wasn't the Namikaze family a big group, though? Kiba asked, turning in his desk to face Naruko. Didn't we just learn something about a Nami-something name a few days ago? You're thinking of Nami no Kuni. And that's the land of waves, a place on the map, not a family, Sakura noted, shaking her head. Honestly, even Naruko knew that and you didn't. You need to focus more, Kiba. Who asked you? Kiba huffed playfully. Iruka watched his class share another round of light laughter. He was about to remind them to stay on task when he noticed Ken raise his hand again. Iruka-sensei? Ken spoke up. The class almost in unison stopped laughing, giving the quiet student a chance to speak. A sigh of contentment escaped Iruka, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere of his classroom as he acknowledged his student. Yes, Ken? Do you have another question? I am just curious. But since the fourth Hokage was such a hard worker who started from the beginning just like us, do you think any of us stand a chance of becoming Hokage? Ken asked. It would be really wonderful to know that I could become the Hokage or say that I graduated from the same class as the future leader. Iruka-sensei bit his lip, considering the question. He knew they were supposed to stay on the lesson, but he saw a spark of inspiration in the room. He decided that encouraging his students was more important than the syllabus for a moment. The instructor took a moment to look at all of the students, examining each of them with a warm gaze. He then gave a bright smile as he turned back to Ken. There is a lot of potential in this year's class. You are all kind, bright students, and I have seen some remarkable skills in all of you. If you all keep up with your determination and focus on being your very best, I could see any of you becoming the Hokage one day. Iruka told his students proudly. Most of the students in the room looked at their teacher and smiled back, gratefully accepting the compliment. Naruko had a large, beaming smile on her face. Don't worry, Iruka-sensei. The blonde girl spoke confidently, her blue eyes sparkling. I intend on getting better each and every day. You will be seeing me as the Hokage in no time. The sweet silence vanished as a few giggles and whispers were heard after Naruko finished her statement. Just because you know some facts about the village history does not mean you are ready to be the leader, Naruko, Sakura stated, crossing her arms. She is right. If anyone here is going to be Hokage, it is going to be Sasuke, Ino exclaimed before turning her attention away from Naruko and toward the quiet, dark-haired boy sitting by the window. Isn't that right, Sasuke? Sasuke gave no response, seemingly deep in thought. He was watching the clouds outside, appearing unaware of the conversation. What is so great about him? Sasuke has not even said he wants to be Hokage, Naruko grumbled, crossing her arms over her orange jacket. He is just a regular student like the rest of us. Naruko's comment sparked a wave of disagreement from the other students who admired Sasuke. Many of the girls in the class were now looking at Naruko with frowns. He is very talented. One of the girls shouted. Naruko rolled her eyes, deciding to stay quiet to avoid any more fuss. She felt a bit lonely in her dream, thinking that no one believed she could actually do it. She tucked a stray strand of blonde hair behind her ear and looked down at her desk. Unfortunately for her, the room continued to get louder, with several students vocalizing their support for Sasuke and their doubts about Naruko. Sasuke will be a great leader. Naruko needs to study much harder first. Why does she think she can lead the whole village? Hey! Everyone, please settle down, Iruka shouted, trying to bring peace back to the classroom. Shikamaru grumbled to himself. The increase in noise had disturbed him while he was trying to rest his head on his desk. With a loud yawn, he looked around at his classmates in mild annoyance. You should really be more realistic, Naruko, Ino said. Sasuke is at the top of the class. Naruko grit her teeth, feeling her face turn a bit red. She was about to defend her dream again when a different voice spoke up first. This is so much work. Can you all just admit that Naruko has what it takes so we can have some peace and quiet? Shikamaru groaned, resting his chin on his hand. You are all being very loud over a simple dream. The classroom became quiet for a moment. All of the students turned their attention to Shikamaru. Even Naruko looked at him with wide, shocked eyes. You cannot be serious, Shikamaru, Ino said, shaking her head. You really think Naruko can become the Hokage? Sure she can. Why wouldn't she be able to? The boy replied with a lazy blink. Naruko's heart skipped a beat. She thought to herself, does he really mean it? Does he actually believe in me? Why? Because she still has so much to learn. One of the boys sitting next to Shikamaru laughed. She isn't the strongest person here yet. Shikamaru sighed, realizing he had to explain himself if he wanted the room to be quiet again. He sat up straight and looked at his friend. Of course she isn't ready to be Hokage right this second. None of us are. We are still just students in the academy. But wait until she becomes a graduate and gets the chance to truly practice and grow. She will probably surprise all of you, Shikamaru mumbled. It is definitely possible. I can see it happening. You see her as the leader? Over someone like Sasuke? Sakura asked, her eyes wide in disbelief. I do, Shikamaru replied firmly. Becoming the Hokage is not just about being the best at everything. It is about having the heart to keep going. Naruko clearly wants to help everyone and she is going to work for it. She has more heart than anyone, and she never gives up. If you can't see how hard she tries, then you are missing the point. Besides, she would do a wonderful job. She loves this village and everyone in it. I am sure she would do everything she could to keep our home safe and happy. Naruko sat very still, trying to process his kind words. No one had ever spoken about her with such respect before. She felt a warm glow of happiness in her chest. Sakura looked like she wanted to argue, but before she could find the words, another soft voice drifted through the room. I agree with Shikamaru, Hinata whispered shyly, blushing as she looked at Naruko with a supportive smile. Everyone turned their heads to the back of the room, staring at Hinata. The girl from the Hyuga family tapped her index fingers together, looking downward as she started to feel the attention of her classmates. She felt a little nervous about speaking up in front of everyone. No. I will be brave. Hinata took a deep breath, encouraging herself. Her eyes briefly moved over to Naruko and a warm glow of friendship developed on her cheeks. If Shikamaru-san can speak up for Naruko-chan, then so can I. I think that Shikamaru-san is right. Naruko-chan has the kindness and dedication to become a wonderful Hokage, she spoke softly but clearly. Hinata? She thinks so too? Naruko stared intently at her friend, her blue eyes widening with wonder. She thinks I would be a great leader? Before any of the students could reply, Master Iruka cleared his throat, gathering everyone's attention. That is enough for that discussion. We have many important things to learn today. Iruka informed the class with a firm nod. And because we had a bit of trouble settling down today, we are going to have a fun quiz tomorrow about the history of our village leaders. Make sure you all study your books tonight. Many of the academy students let out a small sigh, but they listened respectfully. The room became quiet and peaceful as they focused on the lesson. Naruko found it hard to focus on the chalkboard. Her mind kept repeating the supportive words from Shikamaru and Hinata. Naruko had often felt like she was dreaming alone, and having friends who truly believed in her made her heart feel light. She spent the rest of the afternoon thinking about her classmates, feeling very grateful for their kindness. Class is dismissed. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, Iruka said. Nearly all of the students gathered their bags and hurried out to enjoy the sunshine. Naruko stood up slowly and looked around for her two friends. Hey, Shikamaru. Hinata. Naruko called out, waving her hand. Shikamaru, who had been resting his head on his desk, blinked slowly and turned toward Naruko. He stood up and walked over with a big yawn. Hinata, who was near the door, paused when she heard Naruko's voice. She walked back toward her friends, feeling a bit shy but very happy. I just wanted to ask you both. Back in class today. Did you really mean what you said? Naruko asked softly, looking at them with hope in her eyes. Mean what? You'll have to remind me, Shikamaru said, stretching his arms. I was daydreaming about the clouds for most of the afternoon. You are always daydreaming, Naruko laughed, her bright yellow pigtails bouncing as she shook her head. Shikamaru just smiled. It is a very peaceful way to spend the day. Hinata spoke up, gently tapping her fingers together as she looked at Naruko. Were you asking about the Hokage, Naruko-chan? Naruko took a deep breath and looked them both in the eye. I wanted to know if you truly believe I can lead the village one day. Oh, Shikamaru responded thoughtfully. That is what you meant. I meant it with all my heart, Hinata nodded. I think you will be a very kind and strong Hokage in the future, Naruko-chan. I agree, Shikamaru added with a shrug. If I didn't think you could do it, I wouldn't have said anything. It takes too much energy to say things you don't mean. Naruko looked at her friends for a few moments. Then, a huge, genuine smile spread across her face. It was the brightest smile they had ever seen her wear. You two are the first friends my age to believe in me like that. I promise I will work hard to make you proud, Naruko said, placing her hand over her heart. Thank you so much. You are very welcome, Naruko-chan, Hinata replied. She felt so happy that she couldn't stop smiling. I was just telling the truth. There is no need to thank me for that, Shikamaru said, a friendly spark in his eyes. But you're welcome, Naruko. Are you too busy right now? She asked eagerly. Shikamaru tilted his head. I was going to find a nice hill for a nap, but I suppose I can wait. I have to go home soon for my family lessons, but I have a little bit of time right now, Hinata said. Naruko was so excited that she didn't even wait for another word. She beamed at them both. Since you are free, I am taking you both to share a meal at the best place in the whole village, Ichiraku Ramen. It will be a celebration from your future Hokage. The girl told them. Naruko happily took Hinata and Shikamaru by the hands and began to lead them out of the classroom toward the village streets. Wait, Not so fast, Naruko, Shikamaru laughed as he tried to keep up with her energetic pace. There goes my quiet nap. What a busy afternoon. Naruko-chan is holding my hand. We are all going to get lunch together. Hinata thought, her heart full of joy. The three friends laughed together as they headed toward the ramen shop, ready to share a meal and talk about their dreams under the afternoon sun. It took Hinata roughly 10 minutes before she regained consciousness. Upon waking up, she was immediately guided out by Naruko, alongside Shikamaru. The blonde girl rushed them through the streets of Konoha toward a ramen stand in the center of the village. Naruko's golden pigtails bounced with every step, her energy radiating like a warm summer sun. Yo, old man Ichiraku. I'm here. Naruko announced, her voice bright and cheerful. Ichiraku Tuchi, the owner of Ichiraku Ramen, turned around as he noticed the young girl sitting down at one of his chairs. A gentle smile creased his face as he approached her, nodding kindly. Good afternoon, Naruko. Long day at the academy? He asked. Yeah, it was a little long, but it's all good, she replied with a shrug before gesturing excitedly to her right. Hey, old man. Meet Hinata and Shikamaru. Hinata and Shikamaru, meet old man Ichiraku. And his daughter Ayame. Naruko then paused, looking around the cozy wooden stand. Wait, where's Ayame? She has the day off. I can't overwork my daughter too much, Tucci said, his laughter warming the air. He then turned his head toward Naruko's classmates, who were standing politely to the side. Hinata and Shikamaru? Welcome. Any friends of Naruko are welcome here. Please, have a seat. Oh. Okay, Hinata whispered, nodding her head quickly as she took the seat next to Naruko. It is a pleasure to meet you, Ichiraku-san. Shikamaru tucked his hands into his pockets as he walked over to the seat next to Hinata, giving the ramen chef a respectful nod. I assume you want your usual miso ramen, am I right, Naruko? Tucci asked. The blonde girl nodded her head enthusiastically, which caused the chef to turn his attention to the other two academy students. And for you too? I, don't really have ramen much, so I don't know. I'll just order what Naruko-chan ordered, if that's okay, Hinata said, tilting her head slightly. Shikamaru brought his hand to his chin as he thought. It has been a while since I've had ramen. I guess Shio ramen? You make that here, right? I make all types of ramen, Shikamaru, Tucci laughed again as he nodded. So, 2 bowls of miso and 1 shio. Coming right up. As the chef turned around to start the broth, Naruko turned to face her 2 classmates, looking at them with wide, curious eyes. Wait, you 2 don't eat much ramen? Really? She blinked, trying to process this surprising news. Why not? I usually eat with my clan, and my father prefers traditional home-cooked meals, Hinata admitted softly. Whenever I go out to get my own treats, I usually look for something sweet like cinnamon rolls. I'm in the same boat. I normally eat with my parents. Mom doesn't cook ramen often, Shikamaru added. Although I sometimes go out for snacks with Choji whenever he finds a new place he likes. Humph. Naruko crossed her arms playfully. Ramen is way better than sweets or anything else. A small smirk developed on Shikamaru's face as he shook his head. I dare you to look Choji in the eye the next time you see him and say that. Challenge accepted. Naruko replied, grinning back at him. She paused for a moment, then began to rub the back of her head as she looked at her new companions. So, what do you guys like to do for fun? Fun? Hinata asked softly. I sleep, Shikamaru interrupted, leaning back and making himself comfortable in the wooden chair. No way. Naruko rolled her eyes. Then what do you do when you're awake? Think about sleeping, the boy replied, his smirk widening. That is so silly. The blonde girl laughed. She then turned her head toward Hinata. Well, what about you? Anything has to be more active than that. In my free time, I usually practice my movements. I also press flowers and read and. Press flowers? Naruko tilted her head, her curiosity piqued. How do you do that? You basically preserve flowers inside a heavy book to keep their color and shape. You can use them to make art, Hinata elaborated, a small, genuine smile developing on her lips. My mother showed me how to do it. Wow, that's actually really cool. Naruko nodded in understanding. So, do you grow your own flowers? Like a garden? Because I have a little garden on my balcony and that would be amazing. I don't grow many myself, Hinata shook her head. I usually find them in my clan's garden. That's wonderful, Naruko said, her eyes brightening. Hey, would you want to use something from my garden to press? I mostly grow green plants and herbs right now, but I can try growing some beautiful flowers if you'd be interested. We could garden together. Hinata's cheeks turned a soft shade of pink. She managed to nod her head as a large, happy smile developed on her lips. I would love to, Naruko-chan. Hey! Awesome. I'll pick out some seeds then. Naruko smiled back. She then quickly turned her head back to Shikamaru. See? That is a real hobby, Shikamaru. Naruko stopped mid-sentence when she noticed that Shikamaru had already rested his head down on the counter, breathing steadily in a light nap. Both Naruko and Hinata blinked at the sight before Naruko playfully tapped his shoulder. Hey! You're missing the conversation, she teased. Just resting my eyes, Shikamaru grumbled gently as he stayed put. Wake me up when the food is ready. Unbelievable, Naruko laughed, shaking her head. Hinata giggled to herself as she watched Naruko continue to playfully pester Shikamaru to wake up. It's wonderful to see Naruko bringing friends here, Tucci thought to himself as he carefully prepared the noodles. She has such a kind heart. I'm glad she is such good company. With a happy hum, Tucci finished the bowls and set them down. He had a feeling this was the start of a very special friendship between the three of them. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, smiled softly as he gazed into the crystal ball resting upon his desk. The surface of the glass shimmered, revealing a heartwarming scene at Ichiraku Ramen, the favorite spot of a bright-eyed girl named Naruko. Naruko sat on a tall wooden stool, her blonde pigtails bouncing as she laughed. Beside her were two of her classmates from the academy, Hinata, a shy girl with a gentle spirit, and Shikamaru, a clever boy who often preferred watching the clouds. The three of them were sharing stories, their faces lit up by the warm glow of the shop and the steam from their delicious bowls of noodles. The Hokage frequently looked in on Naruko to ensure she was happy and safe. Seeing her surrounded by friends brought a deep sense of peace to his heart. For a long time, Naruko had walked her path with a lonely but determined spirit, and seeing her finally find companions who appreciated her kindness was a wonderful sight. Naruko, it warms my heart to see you sharing your bright energy with others, Sarutobi whispered to the quiet room. It is truly wonderful to see you building such strong bonds. Satisfied that she was in good company, the Hokage waved his hand over the crystal ball. The image faded into a soft mist, but the memory of their laughter remained in his mind. He leaned back in his chair, looking out the window at the great stone faces carved into the mountain. He felt a spark of inspiration as he thought about the trio. He could see their potential blooming like flowers in the springtime. Naruko's boundless optimism, Hinata's quiet courage, and Shikamaru's brilliant mind formed a perfect circle of friendship. Every great story has a beginning. Sarutobi knew he was watching the start of something beautiful, a journey of three friends who would support one another, learn together, and bring a lasting light to their village through the power of kindness and teamwork. And I'm here, Naruko noted as she stepped into the bright, sunlit hallways of Konoha's academy. As she began to walk toward her classroom, a few of the academy instructors and students paused, their eyes widening in surprise. The young girl with the bright blonde pigtails was arriving 20 minutes before class was scheduled, something she never did. Usually, it was a lucky day if Naruko arrived on time at all. She was known for rushing through the door at the very last second with a wide, sheepish grin and a quick apology to her teacher, Iruka. Arriving early was a brand new sight. It was so unusual that several students gave her confused but curious looks as she passed by. Today was different, however. For the first time in months, Naruko was truly looking forward to class, mostly because she couldn't wait to see her new friends. Friends. We really are friends now, right? She whispered to herself. She thought back to how Hinata and Shikamaru had stood up for her and encouraged her big dreams. She remembered laughing with them after class and sharing big, warm bowls of noodles at Ichiraku's. A bright smile spread across her face as she nodded, her blue eyes sparkling. Yep. I think we're definitely friends now. Upon entering the classroom, Naruko scanned the rows of desks to see if she could spot either of them. While Shikamaru's seat was still empty, she found Hinata sitting in her usual spot at a table in the back. Naruko's smile widened into a joyful grin as she hopped up the stairs toward her. Hey, Hinata. She called out cheerily. How's it going? The young girl turned around, her eyes widening as she saw Naruko standing there so early. A soft pink glow dusted Hinata's cheeks as she smiled back, bowing her head politely. Hello, Naruko-chan. She greeted. Why you're here much earlier than usual. You usually arrive a bit later. Naruko shrugged her shoulders with a playful giggle. I just felt like getting a head start today. Anyway, how are you doing? Mind if I sit next to you? Naruko-chan wants to sit next to me? Hinata's heart fluttered with happiness. Why yes, of course, she said aloud. Naruko beamed and slid into the chair right next to her. To answer your Q question, I'm doing very well, Hinata noted, gently tapping her fingers together. Thank you, by the way. F for the ramen yesterday. Don't thank me, Naruko said, letting out a happy chuckle. I should be thanking you and Shikamaru. I had so much fun hanging out with you guys. I did too, Hinata replied, her smile growing more confident. She truly had enjoyed herself. It had been a long time since she had gone out to a restaurant with friends outside of her family. The ramen had been delicious, the chef had been very kind, and she loved listening to Naruko's energetic stories. Getting to know her classmates better made the whole afternoon feel like a wonderful treasure. You know, we should all head over to Ichiraku's again soon. Naruko suggested. It would be a lot of fun, Hinata agreed, nodding her head. We really should. I'll ask Shikamaru if he's free later. But even if he's busy, you and I should still go grab a snack, Naruko said with a laugh. Hinata's eyes sparkled at the thought of spending more time with her cheerful friend. The idea of a girls' afternoon out for ramen made her feel incredibly happy and included. Naruko tilted her head, noticing that Hinata's face was turning quite pink. Your face is getting really red, Hinata. Are you feeling okay? You don't have a cold, do you? Being helpful and kind, Naruko reached out and placed a hand on the girl's forehead to check for a fever. The sudden kindness and the close proximity of her best friend were so overwhelming for the shy girl that Hinata's eyes fluttered shut, and she drifted into a quick, peaceful nap right there at her desk. Hinata. Naruko blinked, leaning in closer to make sure her friend was all right. Just as Naruko started gently patting Hinata's shoulder to wake her up, Shikamaru strolled into the classroom. He took one look at the scene and let out a quiet, amused huff. Naruko, you really are something else, he said, walking over to them. She's just overwhelmed because you're being so energetic this morning. She'll be fine if you just let her rest for a minute. What's that supposed to mean? Naruko asked, puffing out her cheeks in a pout. Shikamaru considered explaining how much Hinata admired her, but he decided it was a bit too much effort for so early in the morning. He simply shrugged, took the seat on the other side of Naruko, and leaned back. Don't worry about it. She'll wake up in time for the lesson, he said, stifling a yawn. If you say so, Naruko sighed, making sure Hinata was comfortable in her chair before turning to her other friend. So, how are you doing, Shikamaru? Tired, he replied with a lazy smile. But glad to be here. You were tired yesterday, Naruko exclaimed, her voice bright and full of energy. It's almost like being tired is something that can occur more than once. Who would have thought? Shikamaru said with a lighthearted chuckle. Humph. Naruko crossed her arms, though a playful glint remained in her eyes. Well, you should try to have more energy today. Shikamaru smiled as he rested his head on his desk. Other than being a bit sleepy, I'm doing just fine. How about you? Doing great. Naruko replied, her small frown flipping into a wide, sunny smile. Thanks again for coming out yesterday to get ramen with Hinata and me. It was the best. Well, you didn't give me much of a choice, did you? But I had fun, so thanks for inviting me, Shikamaru admitted. Naruko rubbed the tip of her nose, her smile turning a bit more mischievous. Hey. Based on what you call fun, I think I'm going to have to invite you to do even more things. I need to keep you active and moving, you know? Or you could just ask, and I will probably say yes, Shikamaru noted. Naruko's eyes lit up with excitement. Oh. So that means. Alright everyone, it is time for class to start. Naruko blinked and looked around. While she had been chatting with Hinata and Shikamaru, the classroom had filled up with the rest of the students. Mizuki, one of the academy instructors, walked to the front of the room and began the morning lecture. Naruko's gaze shifted to Hinata, and her expression softened into a look of concern. She leaned closer to Shikamaru and whispered quietly. Hinata still hasn't woken up from her nap. She isn't going to get in trouble, is she? She asked. Good point, Shikamaru whispered back with a yawn. I will. Just close my eyes too. So she won't be the only one napping. Before Naruko could even respond, Shikamaru was already drifting off into a peaceful sleep. Naruko blinked, processing how quickly he had fallen asleep, before turning back toward the front of the room to focus on Mizuki. He sure is a sleepy one, Naruko whispered to herself as she tried to pay attention to the lesson. Unfortunately for Naruko, the lecture on the fundamentals of illusions was very long, and she found her mind wandering. She pulled out a small piece of paper and began working on something much more exciting to her, a plan for a grand surprise. Imagine a glitter surprise that pops out of a scroll to celebrate Iruka-sensei's birthday. That would be amazing. But how do I make it work? Naruko rubbed her chin thoughtfully. Maybe I could ask the third Hokage to help me find a scroll that holds lots of colorful sparkles. But how do I get Iruka-sensei to open it? Maybe. Oh. Naruko turned her attention to her right. Hinata was lifting her head from the desk, looking around the classroom to see what she had missed. Hey, you're awake, Naruko whispered to her, grinning warmly. Ah. Hinata looked over at Naruko. She felt a little shy about having fallen asleep in class. I am so sorry. That was so silly of me. Don't be sorry. You're totally fine, Naruko replied, pointing a thumb toward her left at the sleeping Shikamaru. At least you woke up, unlike our sleepy friend over there. Hinata giggled softly at the sight of Shikamaru. The two girls shared a quiet moment of friendship before Hinata began taking neat notes on the lecture, while Naruko went back to dreaming up her next big, colorful surprise. An hour passed, and Mizuki's lecture finally finished. He turned toward the door with a polite smile. All right class, head on outside. Let's go meet up with Iruka-sensei to work on your practice tools and target training, he stated. The students at the academy all nodded at their teacher's words before getting up and heading out. Naruko and Hinata rose from their chairs and were about to walk out together when they noticed that Shikamaru was still resting his head on his desk. Naruko smiled and gently nudged the Nara's shoulder, waking him up. Oi, you are going to be late for the training outside. Hurry up. Naruko told him, her bright pigtails bouncing as she moved. You woke me up for training? Ugh. Shikamaru grumbled, stretching as he let out a long yawn. The training is always the same. It is a lot of effort and very troublesome. Everything is too troublesome for you, Naruko said with a giggle. Exactly, he replied simply, rubbing his eyes. Shikamaru-kun, you really should hurry. We wouldn't want to make the teachers wait, Hinata told him softly. With a loud, dramatic sigh, Shikamaru finally pulled himself out of his chair and followed Naruko and Hinata out of the classroom. The three were the last students in the hallway, everyone else had already made it outside to the sunshine. As the trio finally approached the door to the practice field, it swung open, revealing Mizuki. Ah. Mizuki-sensei. Hinata looked downward, shyly tapping her fingers together. Sorry for taking a while. Mizuki's eyes moved from Hinata to Shikamaru and finally to Naruko. A small frown developed on his face as he shook his head. Naruko, I understand you are very energetic, but please do not stall Hinata or Shikamaru, he said. Just because you are often distracted does not mean you should encourage that behavior in other students. If you are late to the lessons again, we might have to have a serious talk with you about your responsibilities. Naruko sighed softly and tucked a stray lock of blonde hair behind her ear. Yes, sensei. My bad. I understand. Huh? Hinata blinked in response, looking up at Mizuki in surprise. And Naruko-chan wasn't stalling us. That was actually me, Shikamaru admitted. I was resting and did not want to get up. They stayed back to wake me up so I would not miss the lesson. So it is my fault they are late. Sorry. Shikamaru knew he might get a lecture for falling asleep in class again, but he felt it was important to speak up so Naruko did not take the blame for his choice. Ah. Mizuki nodded his head. He then stepped aside and pointed toward the field. Well, you all get out there. Iruka-sensei has already started the demonstration. Both Hinata and Shikamaru looked at Mizuki in surprise. Naruko had received a stern warning for stalling, but when Shikamaru took the responsibility, the teacher had no further comment. Naruko, meanwhile, just gave a small, cheerful shrug and began walking toward the bright green grass of the field. Come on, guys. We do not want Iruka-sensei to wonder where we are. See coming, Hinata said with a worried look, following close behind her friend. Shikamaru followed silently, deep in thought. Both Hinata and Shikamaru noticed that Naruko was often treated more strictly than the other students, even by instructors who seemed patient with everyone else. It bothered them because Naruko was always so kind and helpful to them. What surprised them most, however, was that Naruko seemed to take it all in stride. She simply kept her chin up and kept moving forward with a smile. It was something they both hoped they could understand better as they grew up together. Shikamaru let out a long, weary breath and returned his focus to his rice, hoping the steam from the bowl would act as a shield against his mother's sudden intensity. This was exactly what he meant when he thought things were troublesome. A simple question about fairness had turned into a full interrogation about his social calendar. No, Mom, I'm just saying Choji is away, Shikamaru clarified calmly. But Naruko is the one I was curious about. She's always so bright and full of energy, wearing that orange jacket like she wants the whole world to see her. It just doesn't make sense why some adults look at her like she's a storm cloud instead of a sunshine-colored kid. Yoshino's expression softened instantly. The fire in her eyes died down, replaced by a thoughtful glimmer. She shared a brief, silent look with Shikaku. It was the kind of look parents used when they were deciding exactly how much of the world's complexities a child was ready to hear. Naruko is a special girl, Yoshino said, her voice dropping to a gentler register. She has a lot of spirit, and sometimes, people who are very quiet or very traditional don't know what to do with someone who shines that brightly. They mistake her energy for mischief. Shikaku nodded, leaning back in his chair. Your mother is right. Naruko has had to be her own biggest cheerleader for a long time. If she's loud, it's because she wants to be heard. If she pranks, it's because she wants to be noticed. It isn't fair that the instructors treat her differently, Shikamaru. In this world, consistency is a rare trait, even among teachers. Shikamaru poked a piece of broccoli. She's actually really kind. When we went for ramen, she made sure Hinata felt included the whole time. She even shared her extra toppings. For someone who doesn't have much, she's really generous. That sounds like a wonderful quality, Shikaku said with a small, proud smile. If you see someone being treated unfairly, and you know the truth, the best thing a Nara can do is stand by the truth. It takes a lot of work to be a leader, but it takes even more heart to be a friend to someone everyone else misunderstands. I guess, Shikamaru mumbled, though a small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. She told me her dream is to become the Hokage so that everyone in the village will have to treat her like family. She says she'll make sure no one ever has to eat lunch alone. Yoshino reached over and patted Shikamaru's hand. Well, it sounds like Naruko and Hinata are exactly the kind of friends you need. They might even keep you awake long enough to actually graduate. Hey, I said they weren't troublesome, I didn't say they were miracle workers, Shikamaru joked, finally giving in to a grin. The tension in the room evaporated, replaced by the warm, quiet atmosphere of a family sharing a meal. Shikamaru realized that while the world outside might be confusing and inconsistent, he could at least be a steady point for his new friend. If Naruko was going to aim for the stars, she'd probably need someone grounded to help her find the way. Maybe having friends isn't so troublesome after all, he thought, taking a final bite of his mackerel. Even if it means I have to spend less time napping and more time standing up for what's right. The morning sun filtered through the academy windows as the students began to settle into their seats. Naruko was practically vibrating in her chair, her bright blue eyes shining with anticipation. She adjusted her goggles and leaned back, giving Shikamaru a wide, toothy grin. Hey, Naruko. Hinata, Shikamaru called out as he took the seat next to the blonde girl. Yo, Shikamaru. Naruko greeted, her voice full of energy. What is up? Okay, I know this is last minute and stuff, so you both can say no, but my mom invited you both to come over to my clan's compound for some training after class, Shikamaru told them with a sigh. No pressure or anything, of course. I am game. I have nothing else to do today, Naruko said, her excitement growing. What kind of training? And what time? I do not know. My dad is going to oversee the training, but he never said what he was going to work on. As for what time? Well, sometime after classes, Shikamaru told her with a yawn. Maybe 2 hours after class? Works for me. Naruko nodded her head, giving the Nara a big thumbs up. I would love to hang out anyway. Training just sounds awesome to me. The Nara heir gave her a small smirk before he turned his attention to Hinata. The girl was looking down at her desk, gently poking her index fingers together. And need to ask my father if I can come. He usually likes to train after C class, so I will need to see if it is okay, Hinata said softly. Sorry. How about we all meet up in front of my clan's compound in 2 hours after classes end? Shikamaru suggested to them both. He looked kindly at Hinata. If you do not show, we will just assume your father said no. Again, no pressure. Oh okay, Hinata replied. Fine with me. I really hope you can come as well, Hinata, Naruko told her warmly. Her kindness caused Hinata to blush and offer a small, shy smile. I am really excited. I cannot wait to see what your dad has planned for us. Mom may make us dinner after, too, Shikamaru noted with a shrug. Just letting you know. Sweet. That sounds amazing, Naruko exclaimed. Class began shortly after, but Naruko found it very hard to focus on the history of the village. She kept imagining what kind of fun drills they would do and what Shikamaru's home looked like. She had always wanted to see how other families practice their skills. With a heart full of hope and a head full of dreams, she spent the rest of the morning counting down the minutes until the final bell. It was going to be a wonderful afternoon. When the school bell rang, Hinata waved a cheerful goodbye to her classmates. Her heart fluttered with excitement as she hurried toward the Hyuga compound. She had a special request for her father, and she hoped with all her might that he would say yes. Inside the quiet study of the grand estate, Hyuga Hyashi sat at his wooden desk. As the leader of the clan, he spent much of his day reading scrolls and ensuring that every family in the compound was well cared for. He was a serious man, always thinking about the future and how to help his people grow stronger and kinder. A soft knock at the door broke his concentration. Hyashi looked up, smoothing his robes just as the door creaked open. "Father?" "Hinata," he greeted her with a small, formal nod. "Do you have something on your mind?" Hinata stepped into the room, her fingers twined together. "Father. I wanted to ask. If I could." Hyashi watched her closely. "Take a deep breath, Hinata. Stand tall. Remember that a member of our family should speak with clarity and confidence." Hinata took a slow, steadying breath. She thought of her friend, Naruko, and the bright, sunny smile the blonde girl always wore. Naruko's energy gave Hinata a little spark of courage. "I was invited to a special outdoor practice session with the Nara family," Hinata said, her voice growing a bit stronger. "I would very much like to go and learn with my friends." Hyashi leaned back in his chair. "A practice session? Do you know what you will be learning?" "Shikamaru invited me," Hinata explained. "He said his father would be there to teach us about nature, teamwork, and how to use our surroundings to solve puzzles. I think it would be a wonderful way to learn things I cannot find in our library." Hyashi considered this. He knew the Nara family was famous for their wisdom and their ability to think through any challenge. He looked at his daughter and saw the hope in her eyes. Lately, Hinata had been struggling with her lessons at home, and he worried that she was being too hard on herself. Perhaps some time away from the compound, playing and learning in the fresh air with Naruko and the others, was exactly what she needed. "The Nara family has much to teach about patience and strategy," Hyashi said finally. "It is important to see how others approach the world." "Very well, Hinata. You have my permission to attend." Hinata's eyes lit up like stars. "Thank you, Father. I promise to listen carefully and be very helpful to everyone there. I expect you to represent our family well," Hyashi added, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "And give my regards to young Naruko if you see her. Her spirit is certainly unique." Hinata bowed respectfully, her heart dancing. "I will. Thank you again." As Hinata hurried out to gather her things, Hyashi watched her go. He hoped that by spending time with friends like the energetic Naruko, Hinata would find the confidence she needed to shine in her own way. He picked up his brush and returned to his work, feeling a little more peaceful than he had before. Outside, the sun was shining brightly over the village. Naruko was already waiting at the park, her golden pigtails bouncing as she practiced her balance on a wooden fence. "Hinata! Over here!" Naruko called out, waving both arms enthusiastically. "Hurry up! The sun is perfect for our big adventure." Hinata ran toward her friend, a wide smile on her face. Today was going to be a wonderful day for learning. 2 hours had passed quickly. Hinata rushed over to the Nara clan compound, her heart fluttering with a mix of nerves and excitement. As she arrived at the entrance, she noticed Naruko and Shikamaru were already there, standing near the large wooden gates. I'm sorry for keeping you guys waiting," Hinata mumbled, bowing her head shyly at her two classmates. She quickly shook her head, trying to find her courage. "I'm really sorry." "Don't worry about it, Hinata. We are all actually early anyway," Naruko told her, giving a bright, sunny smile that made her golden pigtails bounce. She reached out and patted Hinata's shoulder encouragingly. Hinata felt a warm glow of comfort and started to calm down. "Yeah, you're not late at all," Shikamaru informed her with his usual relaxed tone. Hinata took a deep breath, finally feeling completely at ease. The young Nara then turned his attention toward the front doors of the compound. "But since we're all here now, we should probably head inside and meet up with my parents." With those words, the 3 academy students walked into the compound. Naruko and Hinata followed Shikamaru as he led them through the beautifully kept grounds. "Shikamaru, your place is huge. I can't believe you live here," Naruko exclaimed, her blue eyes wide with wonder as she took in the sights of the traditional garden and the neatly trimmed hedges. "Well, it kind of has to be. My clan has a lot of members in it. Probably not as big as yours, though, right Hinata?" Shikamaru asked. I think they are similar in size. Maybe the Hyuga compound is a little bigger, but I like yours a lot. Hinata informed him with a gentle smile. "No need to be humble, Hinata. I know your clan has a bigger compound. You have a very large family, after all," Shikamaru said with a friendly chuckle. "Wait, yours is bigger?" Naruko turned her head to face Hinata, her expression full of genuine curiosity. Hinata blushed but nodded her head. Naruko gave an impressed whistle. Wow, I'd love to see that place someday too. The young girl knew that her friends belonged to notable families in the village, but she had never really thought about it much before. As she looked around the Nara compound, noting the polished wooden floors, the long, peaceful hallways, and the colorful scrolls hanging on the walls, she began to realize how special her friends' heritages were. Conversation slowed for a moment as they reached a set of glass doors. They stepped out into a small, serene courtyard in the back of the compound. The area was filled with tall, leafy trees and had a sturdy table sitting under the shade of the largest branch. Sitting at the table were Shikamaru's parents. They immediately noticed the children and offered warm smiles. "There you are. I take it these are your friends, Shikamaru?" Yoshino asked kindly. Shikamaru nodded before introducing them. "Mom, Dad, these two are Uzumaki Naruko and Hyuga Hinata. Naruko, Hinata, these are my parents. It's an honor to meet you both," Hinata said, bowing politely to the Nara clan head and his wife. "Nice to meet you both," Naruko stated, grinning brightly. "Your son is a little bit of a sleepyhead, but he's really smart and cool." "Hey now," Shikamaru grumbled playfully. Shikaku let out a hearty laugh while Yoshino chuckled. Shikamaru crossed his arms, mumbling something about energetic girls, which only made his mother laugh harder. "I already like them, especially Naruko," Yoshino declared. "Perhaps we can help our son find a bit more of that energy." Naruko laughed along, her joy being quite contagious. Even Hinata couldn't help but giggle softly. "What a drag." Shikamaru shook his head, though a small smile played on his lips. "Well, as much fun as it is to tease my Shikamaru, you all should really start your practice. Best of luck," the Nara mother told the students before she stepped back to watch. The students turned their attention to Shikaku, who had been quietly observing. He stood up from his chair and stretched. "Okay, are you three ready?" Shikaku asked. All of them nodded eagerly. "Good. Now, before we begin. Shadow Clone Jutsu." Shikaku made a careful hand sign, and a soft poof of white smoke appeared. When it cleared, three identical versions of Shikaku stood behind him. Hinata's eyes widened in surprise while Naruko's jaw nearly dropped. "Whoa! How did you do that? Those look so much more solid than the ones we practice at the academy." "They look totally real," Naruko exclaimed, leaning in to get a better look. Shikaku smirked. "That's because they are." "Really? Okay, those are way better than the ones Iruka-sensei shows us. I definitely want to learn how to do that," the blonde-haired girl declared with determination. The Nara leader gave a small laugh. "Someday, Naruko. But this specific version takes a lot of focus and energy. Perhaps when you've practiced your basics more, we can talk about it." Shikaku looked at her thoughtfully for a moment, noticing the spark of potential in her eyes. "She certainly has the spirit for it," he thought. Naruko huffed playfully but turned her focus back to the task at hand. "Anyway, I created these clones to help with your practice matches," Shikaku explained. "I want to see how you move and how you solve problems. My clones will move just enough to give you a good challenge. I'll watch from here to see what you're best at. Any questions?" All three students shook their heads. Naruko looked at one of the clones with a focused gaze, ready to do her best. Hinata took a deep breath, hoping to show her progress. Shikamaru stood calmly, already observing the way the clones were standing. "No objections? Great. Let's begin. Good luck, everyone." With those words, the three clones stepped forward to engage the students in a friendly sparring session. The real Shikaku stood off to the side with his wife, watching closely. Shikamaru spent his match being clever. He knew he wasn't the fastest, so he used the garden's layout to his advantage. He moved around the trees, using small tools to distract the clone. Eventually, he tricked the clone into stepping into a patch of deep shadow near a large oak. Using his family's unique shadow technique, he caught the clone's movement and ended the match with a clever maneuver, causing the clone to puff away into smoke. Now, it was Naruko and Hinata's turn to show what they could do. The match featuring Naruko was a delight to watch. The young girl kept charging at the clone of Shikaku, her golden pigtails flying as she tried to overcome the challenge with as much energy and enthusiasm as possible. Her approach was straightforward, and at first, the clone was able to gently sidestep her predictable movements. However, as the session continued, Naruko began to adapt. Her movements became more creative and spontaneous with every passing second. Despite the high energy she was putting forth, she did not seem to tire at all. Eventually, Naruko found her rhythm, landing several solid, playful hits on the clone until it vanished, leaving her with a bright, triumphant smile. Hinata's performance showed that she possessed great skill in her movements, likely a result of her dedicated practice at home. She was much harder for the clone to avoid. While she was graceful and precise, there was a small hint of hesitation in her actions that the clone was able to use to stay in the match longer. As the minutes ticked by, Hinata pushed through her shyness, eventually finding the perfect opening to finish the spar and dispel her opponent. With the training clones gone, Shikaku gathered his thoughts. He stood up and walked over to the 3 students with a supportive expression. "Well done, everyone. That was a great effort," the head of the Nara family told them. "I was observing your individual strengths, and I have a very good idea of your progress now." Shikaku first turned to his son. "Shikamaru, you are clearly very bright. Your plans are clever and will only improve as you learn more. However, you need to work on your physical agility and being more active. Strength comes from both the mind and the body." "I understand, Dad," Shikamaru nodded, giving a small, relaxed yawn. "I will keep practicing." "Naruko," Shikaku said, turning his attention to the blonde-haired girl. "At the start, your movements were a bit uncoordinated, and we can definitely work on your speed. However, your stamina is truly remarkable. You became very creative as the session went on, making you difficult to predict. That kind of imagination is a wonderful trait to have." Naruko had started with a small pout, but by the end of the praise, she was beaming. "I am not entirely sure what all those big words mean, but I like the sound of it." "It means you have a very creative way of solving problems," Shikaku clarified with a smile. "I see. Then I am definitely going to keep being creative," Naruko exclaimed, hopping up and down with excitement. Finally, Shikaku looked toward the 3rd student. "Hinata, you have the most precise technique among your peers, and you kept a very calm head. You are very strong when you focus. You just need to believe in yourself a little more so you do not hesitate when the moment is right." I understand," Hinata whispered, looking down at her feet. "But remember," Shikaku added warmly, "you were the most skilled in your movements today, and that is something to be very proud of." Hinata looked up, her eyes bright with surprise and joy. "Are you sure?" "I always say exactly what I mean," Shikaku reassured her. "If I say you did a great job, then you truly did." "Thank you very much," Hinata replied, a happy smile gracing her face as she gave a polite bow. "The training continues." Shikaku explained that they would spend the rest of the afternoon focusing on these specific areas. Naruko and Shikamaru stayed with him to practice their coordination and stances, while Hinata went with Yoshino, Shikaku's wife, to work on her confidence and endurance. "I will help you find your inner strength, Hinata," Yoshino said with an encouraging wink. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the 3 students were quite tuckered out. Naruko and Shikamaru were catching their breath after a long series of exercises, while Hinata returned with Yoshino, looking tired but proud of her hard work. "I think we had a very productive day," Yoshino announced. She looked at Naruko and Hinata warmly. "I hope you both had fun. We are about to start dinner, and we would love for you both to stay. Working hard always builds up a big appetite." Naruko's eyes lit up at the mention of a meal. "I would love to stay. Thank you so much. Today was so much fun." Hinata nodded politely. "Thank you for your kindness, Yoshino-sama and Shikaku-sama." "No need for such formal titles," Yoshino laughed gently. "You are Shikamaru's friends, so you are welcome here any time. Rest for a moment while I finish the preparations." A moment of peace. As the adults headed inside, the 3 friends remained in the quiet courtyard. Shikamaru was already lying flat on his back, staring up at the vast sky. "That was quite a workout, right Hinata?" Naruko asked, sitting down on the soft grass. "It really was," Hinata replied, her voice soft and content. "But I feel much stronger now." "Me too," Naruko declared. "If I keep training like this, I will be the best leader the village has ever seen." "You are lucky, Shikamaru, getting to live here where it is so peaceful." Shikamaru didn't answer right away. He was perfectly still, watching the evening sky. "Shikamaru? Did you fall asleep?" Naruko asked with a giggle. "No, I am just watching the clouds," he replied calmly, patting the grass beside him. "You should join me. It helps you find your focus." Naruko and Hinata shared a curious look before lying down on either side of him. For a few minutes, the only sound was the gentle rustle of the leaves in the wind. "Look at that one," Naruko said, pointing a finger upward. "It looks like a big, fluffy cinnamon roll." Shikamaru let out a small, amused huff. "Of course you would see food in the clouds." Hinata giggled softly. "It really does look like one, though." The 3 friends spent the rest of the evening in happy silence, watching the shapes drift across the sky. Naruko felt a sense of calm she didn't often find, realizing that even someone as energetic as her could enjoy a quiet moment. Hinata felt a deep sense of belonging, and Shikamaru smiled to himself, happy to share his favorite hobby with such good friends. It was a perfect, wholesome end to a very busy day. That wraps up today's deep dive. If you enjoyed this breakdown, your support truly keeps the channel alive. Don't forget to like if you found this helpful. Share with your fellow shinobi. Subscribe and hit the bell to join the Six Path journey. Stay legendary. Regards. Six Path Weeb.